Max Pringle with these headlines. The former chief financial officer of the Trump Organization is expected to plead guilty today in a New York courtroom to tax fraud charges. It's part of a deal Alan Weisselberg's attorneys have worked out with prosecutors that would require him to testify about business practices at the former president's company. Weisselberg is charged with accepting more than $1.7 million in untaxed compensation. He's alleged to have accepted off-the-books compensation like rent, car payments, and school tuition. Weisselberg will have to speak in court about the company's role in the arrangement and possibly serve as a witness when the Trump Organization goes on trial in October. A federal judge is expected to decide whether to unseal documents submitted to obtain the warrant to search former President Trump's Florida residence today. Some of the country's largest media companies want the affidavit supporting the warrant made public. The Justice Department objects to the documents being released. The DOJ argues its investigation into Trump's possible mishandling of sensitive documents could be compromised. The media companies argue the affidavit's release would help the public determine if the Justice Department was justified in searching Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Trump has called for the release of the unredacted affidavit in the interest of transparency. Trump has copies of both the warrant and the itemized list of items seized and could release them at any time. He hasn't yet done so. The European Union today mediated talks between the leaders of Kosovo and Serbia aimed at easing tensions between the Balkan neighbors. Feature Story News' Rosie Burchard reports from Brussels.
The crisis talks mediated by the EU's Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell were called after a dispute regarding licence plates and identity documents resulted in violent protests in late July. Tensions eased after authorities in Pristina agreed to postpone implementation of new rules. Kosovo unilaterally declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Serbia slammed the move as illegal. Brussels has been mediating talks aimed at normalising ties between Belgrade and Pristina for over a decade. Ahead of Thursday's meeting, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić warned that discussions would be difficult. Rosie Burchard, Brussels.
A bomb blast in a packed mosque in the Afghan capital Kabul today killed at least 21 people and wounded dozens of others. That's according to Afghan officials. No one has claimed responsibility, but ISIS has carried out similar attacks in the country. Feature Story News' Ollie Barrett reports.
Kabul police say the blast was caused by explosives that had been placed inside the mosque. Hospital workers in the Afghan capital say they've been treating victims suffering from shell and burn injuries, including a number of children. The explosion happened during crowded evening prayers, and it's reported the mosque's imam is among those killed. Taliban security forces are at the scene of the attack, which has now been sealed off. Intelligence officials say their investigation is underway. Nearby buildings were rocked by the large explosion. This latest incident comes a week after ISIS militants killed a pro-Taliban cleric in Kabul in a suicide attack. The Islamic State group continues to be a major security challenge for the Taliban a year after they took the Afghan capital. I'm Ollie Barrett.
The head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is shaking up the organization with the goal of making it more nimble. The planned changes at the nation's largest public health organization come amid criticism of the agency's response to COVID-19, monkeypox, and other public health threats. CDC leaders are calling it a reset. The changes include internal staffing moves and steps to speed up data releases. The CDC's director told the agency's staff about the changes on Wednesday. She says it's a CDC initiative and was not directed by the White House or other administration officials. Momentum is growing for establishing term limits for Supreme Court justices. A recent poll found that 2 in 3 Americans support limiting how long a justice can serve, and bills have been introduced in Congress to make it a law. More from Public News Service's Edwin J. Vieira.
The Supreme Court Tenure Establishment and Retirement Modernization, or TERM Act, would subject justices to 18-year term limits, after which they would be retired. The bill comes at a time when confidence in the Supreme Court fell to 25% in June, according to a Gallup poll. This is down from 36% at the same time in 2021. Georgia Representative Hank Johnson introduced the bill and feels this could keep the court relevant with the American state of mind.
Our Supreme Court is not accountable to the people in its present configuration. And so therefore, term limits will help to infuse modern thinking and keep the United States Supreme Court a modern branch of our democracy.
Should Congress approve the bill, 5 of the current justices would be retired from the court throughout the next 6 years. I'm Edwin J. Vieira.
And I'm Max Pringle.